The narcissist is wittingly or unwittingly an emissary of Satan. When it comes to lying, duplicity, treachery, and a long list of other vices, the narc is all in. The narc sees absolutely nothing wrong with what others consider bad and immoral behavior. In their mind, the narc is above all of that. They are free compared to other people that are constrained by morality. For example, the narc does understand that she needs to give the appearance of being against promiscuous sex. She will profess her chastity loudly to a person she is seducing if that is what he expects. She will profess having a belief in God if her target is a Christian. She will go along with the premise that two people have to make a lifetime commitment if they are to become physically intimate. Whatever it takes, but of course they are all empty words and she knows it. Anyway, the narc does understand that in many circles moral character is valued and even expected, and she knows that it is vital for her to appear moral. But that is for show only. She really isn't constrained at all. She is free. The narcissist is in effect an atheist whether they see themselves as one or not, because they would simply never be able to live in accordance with the external rules of God or submit themselves to God's or anyone else's will. Some bizarre scenarios actually have a narc believe themselves a person of faith and project that religious farce to all they come in contact with. You have to wonder if the narcissist is fooling themselves about loving God in that situation. The narc will die 1,000 deaths before they would ever give in and not be queen of the world. Yes, the deluded narcissist calls herself goddess and thinks it cute. Goddess of what? Goddess of the flies? No, the lord of the flies, Satan, is her master, and she has dedicated every particle of her being to serving him without ever knowing it. She worships Satan in every thought and action, and her self-image is all about being exactly what her master commands her to be. She is the most loyal and obedient servant Satan could ever expect, and he uses her beauty to destroy everything in her path. Satan lies to her daily about how free she is while keeping her as his personal puppet to do his bidding as he sees fit. The naive narc thinks herself free. How tragic. So, that is the sad reality for the narc who is convinced and self-deluded about her own freedom. Plain and simple, the narc is the most enslaved person on the planet. They are a slave to Satan, a slave to sin. So what is the truth that Satan is hiding from the narc? Let's take a look at a few Bible verses. Romans 6:6 For we know that our old self was crucified with him so that the body ruled by sin might be done away with, that we should no longer be slaves to sin. Romans 6:18 You have been set free from sin and become slaves of righteousness. And finally Romans 6:16 Don't you know that when you offer yourselves to someone as obedient slaves, you are slaves of the one you obey, whether you are slaves to sin, which leads to death, or to obedience, which leads to righteousness. So the bottom line is you are either going to be a slave of sin or a slave of righteousness, and that is the truth that Satan is hiding from the narcissist. Yes, the narcissist is literally the opposite of what they believe themselves to be. The narcissist is the least free person, the narcissist is the most naive person, the narcissist is the most uninformed about the reality of life, and the saddest thing of all, the narcissist thinks the very thing that could save her, the acknowledgement of God's rulership, by submission to or enslavement to God, is the one thing that could set her free. So those people that are enslaved by morality are actually the free ones, but the narc doesn't see it. She has been given a strong delusion. So how does this lack of understanding of her own enslavement show up in the narc? Well, she thinks it cool to be a dark angel and Azazel. Yes, the deluded fool actually called herself that and put a post up saying heaven is boring. All of the dark imagery of vampires, demons, and evil women turns her on and actually feeds her sense of grandiosity and invincibility. All delusions that show Satan owns her lock, stock and barrel. The narc has no free will at all, and even when an obvious addiction is pointed out to her, Satan's control over her is so complete she can't be reached, and she refuses to see. The damage from her addiction is all around her, and yet she blames everything and everyone but herself and that addiction. She is like the possession of the monster in It, the terror from beyond space. She is fully owned by the creature and only given enough freedom to be used as bait to ensnare others.
Over here. he's in there, we can get him through this hatch. I'll go. I know the layout in there.
Gino! Easy, Bob, easy. He's alive! Gino! 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 Gino!
But that is an individual example, an actual one. How are narcs in general used by Satan as his tools? Well, the narc is used to take good people and corrupt them. The narcissist sees a naive, trusting, relatively innocent person and sees an easy target. Yes, she can deceive and manipulate that person and use them at her will and then simply discard those foolish naive people that actually believed her lies. The narc feels those victims deserved everything they got because they had a soft life, they weren't streetwise. The narc had such a difficult childhood, no one suffered the way the narc suffered, and therefore she is fully justified in all that she does. She got a raw deal out of life, and why not spread the wealth? The narc is compelled to give back all of the real and perceived cruelty that she received as a child to anyone she can pay it back to. So in some way the victim is receiving the retribution for what others have done to the narc. The narc is a hardened, heartless, soulless individual, so what does it matter if she turns someone else into a bitter human being? She suffered cruelty and abuse and received no love as a child, so now she is supposed to feel sorry or have remorse for someone that she was cruel to, abused, and never loved? Those victims should get over it. That's life. It's about time those victims were exposed to reality. The narc's harsh version of reality. A barren wasteland devoid of any of the good things, an environment where Satan rules supreme. No, the narc's world isn't reality at all. The real world, the way it was meant to be, is God's world, a place of peace, love, joy, and light, not darkness. What the narc doesn't and will never understand is that other people have suffered as children and maybe even more than she did, and yet they have not become narcissists. They do not want to harm others. Those people have retained their humanity, and instead of being bitter and angry at the world, they have taken that suffering to have greater compassion for others. Who can comprehend suffering, pain, feelings of worthlessness and hopelessness better than someone who overcame those things and truly understands those traumas by actual experience? That is what happens when good people that have compassion and a conscience respond to adversity, so the narc, whether they realize it or not, really has no excuse for their despicable behavior. Let's be clear, the trauma done to the narc as a child and genetics probably mean the narc can't really help themselves, but that doesn't make the narc or her actions any less evil. She still has a brain and can think. She is still a responsible adult. There is some culpability and responsibility there whether she acknowledges it or not. Yes, the narc is a tool of Satan, his emissary. They may realize it and actually be proud of it because they are so deluded they can no longer think clearly, or the narc may just be acting on their own impulses. Either way, they are on Satan's team. Don't ask how a person can justify thinking immorality okay and at the same time have a high opinion of themselves. actually think themselves superior to those who are trying to live by morals. It makes no sense. Don't ask how a person who apparently knows that money needs to be earned by hard work and doesn't appear superficial admires those who make money illegally and are nothing but superficial. It doesn't make sense. Does anything about the narc have any coherence or any logic? These people are walking contradictions and hypocrites through and through. One thing is certain, they are slaves to sin and slaves to lying, and the father of lies is Satan. So yes, the narcissist is most definitely Satan's emissary. Thank you for watching. Comments are welcomed.